Hey guys, Frank here and welcome to another episode of How Did I Shoot This One? And this one might stun you how easy it is to get and how awesome it looks. Now, recently we got new softboxes in from Geekoto and I always love to test out new gear. There's only one problem with me. I always try to do stuff a little bit different than what it was designed for. Now, we all know a normal beauty dish, right? And let's just start out, this is not a normal beauty dish. This is a foldable beauty dish. So in other words, it's a softbox with a deflector. And in this case, you need to use the diffusion panel or the grids to create a beautiful soft light quality that doesn't have a specular highlight from the center. But I was just thinking, you know, what I did in the past with my beauty dishes was also sometimes use them in a slightly different way. And I tested it out with the Geekoto and it actually works a lot better than I expected. Now, when you look at the design of a softbox, you can literally predict what the light is going to do. Now, in this case, we have a deep softbox, so that means that it focuses the light forward. We have a large deflector, which means it deflects the light back, but it also makes sure that the center part is darker. That takes out that specular highlight in the middle that you see with some softboxes. Now, of course, when you look at it, you go like, okay, that's interesting. So we have a darker center, we have a lighter area, and then we have that dark area on the side, the black material to mount, of course, the diffusion panel and the grid. What would happen if we don't use it straight on our model with the diffusion, but what happens if we take out the grid? Well, at that point you create something that is really hard to do with normal lighting because you create an aura of light behind your model, and because the deflector is in the middle, the deflector is aimed at my model, so now I get an inverse accent on the backdrop. What do I mean with this? Well, normally when we use a backdrop, we sometimes place light on the backdrop to create a light spot behind our model, right? In this case, I'm doing the opposite. I'm creating a dark spot behind my model, making my model jump out even more because around my model there's a light ring. But that's only one way you can use it. How about using it from the side, feathering it away from the backdrop, and using all that light that comes beside the deflector, going straight into the backdrop, and then use the deflector on our model? What we're actually doing is a trick from Dean Collins from many years ago. When you're outside and you want to make sure that the backdrop becomes out of focus and that nice pastel, but there's bright sunlight, how do you achieve something like that? It's actually pretty simple. When you start out with photography, you just take your camera and you take a shot of your model in the bright sun, right? But what if you start to stack diffusion panels? The first diffusion panel means that the light on your model becomes softer, but also lower in intensity. That means if you adjust for your model, the backdrop becomes lighter, right? Because there's more light. What happens if you stack two diffusion panels? Now your output on your model becomes even lower, and it means that the backdrop becomes brighter. That's exactly the trick I'm using here, only now I'm using it in a softbox. Now there's one thing that you have to take into account, and that's the place of the deflector. Now in the first shots, when I use it to light the dark spot behind my model and the ring around my model, that's where the deflector is as close as possible to my light source. Now when I use the deflector to create that nice halo around my model from the side, that's when I use the deflector in the front. Because when I use the deflector in the front, I want to make sure that the most light is going on the sides, because that has to be that bright light on the backdrop. But when I would just want my model to jump out, I'm using the deflector a little bit more to the back. And that's nice that in this softbox you can actually use the deflector in two different positions. Now we can talk about this for hours. Let's take a look at the behind the scenes video, and then you can see the setup and also how weird it looks, but how great the light quality is. Now, as you can see, a very, very strange setup. And would you think about using a light source like this in that configuration? Probably not. A lot of people buy their softboxes, buy their accessories, and just use them the way that the manual said. RTFM, right? Read the freaking manual. But sometimes just throw out the manual. Look at how a softbox is designed. When you see a deflector, you see a large area of light. You can imagine light hits, stops, and light is bright. So use it to light your model in a more creative way. We're going to use this softbox, or beauty dish, in a lot of different configurations. We're going to use it without the deflector as a softbox. We're going to use it as a softbox. We're going to use it with a grid, and we're going to use the deflector in the middle. But also, as you can see here, just to light our backdrops in a more creative way. I love it when gear is used in many different ways. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and see you again for the next time. Stay creative, and remember, this was a Geekoto softbox, but it goes for every softbox that you buy. Look at how it's designed and find new ways to use it. So, not only Geekoto, Ellingram, Profoto, Hensel, Broncolor, Godox, Westcott. Did I mention all the names now? It works for everything. Just use your own creativity. See you again next time. Bye guys. Do you know that joke about a photographer that needed a 35mm film and he mailed me? He said, Frank, do you still have a 35mm film? What do you think? Of course I have 35mm. Now I emailed him back. I said, you know, Pim, I checked it. And I opened it up, I looked at it, and it's empty, so you can pick it up. Well, of course, that's a really bad joke. But you know what's not a joke? Joining our channel, because you can just hit one button and you really help out the algorithm so we get more viewers. Now, if you want to do even more, tell other people about our channel so we can grow, because we need a lot more subscribers. And of course, well, hit the bell notification button so when we go live, you don't need to wait for the development of film. You can just click a button and you're watching immediately. See you again next time. Bye guys.